It's time to get sexy, so watch Secular Sexuality live Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTSS and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callsex.
That's right, folks. It is time for another episode of The Nonprofits, the show where we discuss the news and the topics of the day from a skeptical humanist perspective. My name's Secular Rarity, and we have spent the last week scouring the web for some wonderfully interesting topics. They might make you laugh, they might make you cry, they might make you puke, but before we get to that, let's introduce some of these lovable characters sitting next to me all the way on the far end. It looks like Kelley, is that you?
It is, and I'm always happy and surprised to be here. And every time you're conducting, I feel like a 5-year-old standing at a urinal because you keep me on my toes.
I like it. What a way to start, man. I love it. And we are always happy to have you here. You've always got great thoughts for us. And then somebody who I haven't seen in a while, but I am just thrilled to have on again is Scott. Is that you?
That's me. That's me. I'm glad to be invited to be part of the band tonight. It looks like the three of us look like we're going to form some kind of a band here, but I'm raring to go, ready to get my hands dirty here.
It's honestly difficult for me to tell each other apart at this point, but I say we just kind of press ahead and hope that everybody can read our names underneath us. But before we get to anything, folks, we always have to remind you that The Nonprofits is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the separation of religion and government and promoting positive atheism. And we are here to do that today. And with that, we have a couple of great things to talk about. Up first is a Pope watch. Pope Frankie is meeting with some trans people at the Vatican. Then we've got WTF Florida. A teen apparently is not mature enough for an abortion. Then up after that is a step in the right direction. Pennsylvania can say gay, and we are happy about that. And to round it off, a strange but true, as we talk about some of the biggest Christian hoaxes of all time. So, as with all of our wonderful shows here on this channel, folks, the links to today's topics and the news that we discuss are available in the description below. And just as a reminder, if you want to come to the show prepared, you can check out the Nonprofits Facebook fan page every Friday night for a list of those articles ahead of time. So, Scott, I think you're starting us off. What's going on with Pope?
What is up with the Pope? Well, the Pope, this is an article that was from them.us, and it was put out on August 11th, and it's by Samantha Rydell, and the title is Pope Francis held a meeting with trans people at the Vatican. This meeting is his fourth with trans people since April. That's the title, not the whole article itself. So, but the opening paragraph reads, at the weekly general audience held on August 9th, the Pope met with a group of unhoused trans people who have been sheltering in a church outside of Rome, according to the Vatican's newspaper, and I'll try to pronounce this, L'Osservatore Romano, as reported by the Associated Press. The paper noted that the meeting was his fourth with trans people since April. And so before we dive a little deeper into that, I just wanted to have a little side note here about their use of unhoused versus homeless. I suppose that's considered to be less derogatory. I don't know. I personally don't think homeless is really derogatory. It seems like, they're victims, right? They're generally victims, but it kind of reminds me of the George Carlin bit from back in the 80s where he was talking about, we don't have a homelessness problem in this country. We have a houselessness problem. And so I think George was just showing that he was ahead of his time, although he's no Seth Andrews. But back to the story here. So we had this group that were sheltering in this house, or in this building, the Blessed Immaculate Virgin Church, which sounds like they're just super fun at parties. They had opened up their building to transgender people during the pandemic, so that they had a place to be and a place to get vaccinations and so on. There was a nun there, Sister Genevieve Jeanengros, said that the meeting brought hope to this group, and that no one should encounter injustice or be thrown away, and everyone has the dignity of being a child of God, which, in my opinion, seems like kind of a backhanded compliment there. But I think after reading this article, I did feel it was generally positive. They didn't really represent transgender people in a negative way, and it characterized the Pope as being sympathetic and concerned about the well-being of these unhoused people. So when this type of scene is presented in the media, I think it will have, it can't help but have some kind of positive impact on the attitudes of Catholics all over the place. You know, if they see the Pope acting and at least presenting his actions as a positive thing, I would imagine that it has some kind of positive effect on their view. Having said that, it seems kind of, I mean, the Pope has definitely a track record in this area.
Kelly, what do you think?
Kelly, what do you think there? Sorry,
Yeah.
that was my fumble there.
You're doing great.
Yeah.
What do you think, Kelly?
You know, no, that's cool. Looking at going back to the past history of Francis with the queer community, it seems like he can't make up his mind. And like Scott mentioned, this was the 4th meeting he's had this year. I tried to Google the other meetings and try to learn something about them, and I couldn't find anything. You know, so if these meetings did take effect, and I'm sure they did happen, nothing ever came of them. Nothing ever made the news about them. It's just all of a sudden this 4th meeting finally makes the news. But on a good note, when I Googled it, there were 10 pages of this story from different sources all around the world. So at least this 4th time, you know, they always say 3rd time's charm. Apparently this was the 4th time the news got all the way around the world, at least this time. So that kind of gives me some hope. I also found out that he had a meeting with a trans man in 2015. And even the people, like when this trans person had gone to the Vatican, he was called the daughter of the devil, or the devil's daughter, by members of the clergy that were there when he was there for his audience. I mean, called him that to his face. So I even though I see Francis saying some things, the church isn't doing anything. It's almost like they're just saying it to give people hope that maybe sometime in the future they might maybe do something, you know, but I don't see anything actually being done, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would say, like many books in the Bible that Pope Frankie reads regularly to his congregations, I'd say he's flip-flopping a little bit. The consistency here is not super great, in my opinion. I mean, his attitude towards LGBTQ people in general is one that doesn't seem to really make sense to me. Because somebody asked him, and they said, you know, a few years ago, they said, like, hey, what do you think about you know, queer people? Are they okay in the eyes of God? And he was like, oh, you know, who am I to judge? I mean, he's the direct line to God, apparently, but who is he to judge? But then on the other side, he just straight up says that trans people, quote, disfigure the face of God. So again, I don't know on this. I don't know if this is, if anything really is going to come from this, because it does. It, just like you just said, Kelly, it does kind of feel like they're just paying lip service to it. What do you think, Scott? Is it good that they're paying lip service, or is it just setting us back?
Well, I mean, lip service is certainly better than a punch to the gut, right? But you know, show me the money. I want to, your actions speak louder than your words. And so I mean, it's not, it could be worse. I mean, if that's the best you can say about something, that's not necessarily all that great, but it could definitely be worse. But, you know, church policy still is firmly against transgender people and LGBTQ plus people of all stripes are, you know, are marginalized, and they're set aside, and they're downcast, and they're abominations, and they're, like you said, disfiguring the face of God, or and so it's very frustrating to see that kind of thing. Yeah, it's good that like I said, you know, I had a good feeling when I read the article. It was nice to see that there was conversation going on, but it was also kind of vague. I mean, it smelled a little bit of like a PR move, because I mean, the whole article was, hey, the Pope met with this group, and it was the 4th time he's done it since March. And that was it. That was the whole story. I want to know more about, you know, what was talked about, what was going on there, and what's going to come as a result of those discussions. That's what matters to me. What's going to happen? What's he going to do?
Yeah. Kelly, I mean, I know you have talked on some past shows here in the nonprofits about, you know, kind of hemorrhaging membership and congregation size at a bunch of different churches. You know, do you agree with Scott? Do you think this is kind of just maybe a PR move, try and fill up the pews and the coffers again?
Yeah, I totally do. I totally think that. Maybe not they might not have that in mind. We're going to get people back into the queues, but I think they're definitely thinking how to keep people in the pews, right? Definitely. I'm really disheartened by the fact that nothing ever came of the 2015 meeting. Nothing ever came of the 3 meetings earlier this year. And that does tell me that it's just a bunch of bullshit, really, you know, that, and then when you look at Francis's history, I mean, he has come out when he was pro same-sex marriage, for example, when he was a bishop, and he has said some very pro-queer things, even as the Pope, and yet he has done some very anti-queer things as a Pope. And it makes me think that his morals are better than his God's, and he might be struggling with that idea, you know, that he can't reconcile his own morals with God's.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time.
And maybe that's why we're getting 2 different messages too.
Yeah, definitely. Wouldn't be the first time we've seen something like that. I agree with you both. I think, you know, words are great, and I really appreciate it, especially when there's somebody like this. You know, the Pope is a figurehead for millions and millions of people around the world. And if the Pope comes out and says, you know, again, even in a lip service PR type of way, says something that is trans affirming, that is supporting the LGBTQ community, I think this is great, because, you know, maybe it does actually help some people out there that have really hardcore bigoted views to kind of just, you know, relax those a little bit and realize that they're, you know, bad and harmful. But also, like, the thought that comes to my mind is like me walking down the street and somebody, you know, running up to me, and a stranger, and just being like, hey, did you hear Pope Francis? He said affirming things about the queer community. My thoughts are just, well, congratulations. Like thanks for finally getting there. I mean, I appreciate it, but also it's kind of like imagine someone coming up to you today and just being like, germs cause disease. Did you hear? It's brand new. It's like, oh my gosh, yes. What, like, come on. Thank you, but you're a little late to the party, I think, you know? But yeah, I mean,
Definitely.
what do you think?
We really need to see somebody like the Pope come out
Yeah.
publicly and support people. We really do. It would go really far.
So do we think, Scott, do you think that this is actually going to spur more Catholics to become more allies and fighting for the queer community, or is there going to be anything from this? What do you think?
I think that this will give, because there's many Catholics out there that recognize that transgender people need rights and that they need recognition and that they need respect. And so there's a lot of that there. And I think that this will ease their consciences about being Catholic. And so that's, you know, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, obviously I think we would all agree that it would be way better if they just weren't Catholic anymore. But you know, an LGBT friendly Catholic person is better than otherwise. And so you know, it's tough to say. It will give people an excuse to remain Catholic. You know, it will ease the cognitive dissonance that they're experiencing.
Yeah.
So, you know, we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes.
For sure. Kelly, any final thoughts you have on this, or?
My final thoughts is that I'm trying to think positive for the future, that hopefully these minor steps that Francis has taken are going to draw all the conservative members of the church authority along with them. That would be good. Would be really good. So I have high hopes for that, but I'm not sure that it will happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'd hate to you know, prophesy anything here, folks, but I am cautiously optimistic, kind of too. Like I want there to be a statement that comes out, you know, here shortly that says, you know, oh my gosh, we got it wrong for so long. We were sorry we're such jerks. We're going to stop actively fighting against people just being people. But honestly, if I had to put money on the table, I'd bet that we are not going to hear anything like that. I bet that we are not going to have in any way, shape, or form a statement coming from Pope Francis or the Catholic Church that is in fact queer affirming. I don't see that in the cards personally. But yeah, it's one of those moments where again, if we gotta get it one way, you know, it's like I wish it was better, but it does seem like this is a good thing. You know, it does seem like that. But
Slow is better than stop, I think. Slow is better than stop.
That's a good point. Well, any final thoughts on this, Scott?
No, I'm just, you know, like I said before, show me the money. I want to see some policy change. I want to see people being recognized as human beings. I want to see, you know, people being considerate of each other. You know, it's ironic, you know, they should listen to the words that they profess to follow. And so I want to see more of that.
Yeah, I agree. Well, before we move on to our next segment, folks, we have to give a super, super huge thank you to all of our veteran and new viewers for getting us over 11,000 subscribers. Thank you so much. That is just absolutely awesome. And we are excited to see those numbers go higher and higher. So if you're watching us now, whether it's your first time or whether you're back again, if you haven't subscribed, just do it already. Just look down below. It's a little button. It spells it out for you. It's super easy. And then after you've done that, you go ahead and hit that like button and ring that bell so that you never miss super cool stuff happening on the Nonprofits channel. We've got this show every Sunday at 3 p.m. Central, but there are great things that happen throughout the week as well. So make sure you have that bell rung so that you notice when we have good stuff. And then finally, just share the link, guys. Just share the link. It's so super easy. Become that person at the party that talks about their favorite show and never shuts up. Do that. Because that's how we get more wonderful people here, and we can do more super cool things, like helping out with those fundraisers. So the more people hanging out with us is always great. And again, all you got to do is just tell people about it. So it's a great conversation starter. You walk up to people, you say, "Hey, how are you today? Have you ever seen the Nonprofits?" But finally, are you aware that the atheist community of Austin has another YouTube channel? Well, you should be. if you go check out the Atheist Experience Network, you can find a cool, awesome, super duper sweet channel. And you can see all the ACA shows in podcast form. So if you're looking at all this hair on screen and you're just thinking, that's not for me, you can just subscribe at tiny.cc/AEN podcast, and you can listen to all the episodes of the nonprofits, the Atheist Experience, Secular Sexuality, Truth Wanted, Talk Heathen, and all of the awesome shows here at the ACA. So don't miss an episode. Go check it out, folks. Again, we make it easy for you. The links are everywhere. So with that, let's go down to Florida and see what's going on. So apparently there was a teenager in Florida who became pregnant. Now, I don't know if anybody's familiar with what's been going on lately, but there was a particularly bad ruling, in my opinion, that has restricted abortion access across the United States. And each state is deciding their own policies. Some of them are doing better than others. And surprisingly, Florida is not one of the better than states. Apparently, the judges decided that this 16-year-old was not mature enough to have an abortion. And so just one more time for the people in the back, because honestly, I read this article about a week ago and I'm still really having trouble just understanding it because it seems so ridiculous and foreign to me. But again, a panel of judges ruled that a 16-year-old in Florida cannot get an abortion because they said she wasn't mature enough to not have a baby. She wasn't mature enough to not have a baby. So before I just start cussing like crazy, Scott, what do you think on this? Am I off base? Does this make sense and I just don't understand? Or
Well, if it does, I don't get it either. It's just so frustrating. It's yeah, I mean, they said she was not mature enough to not be a parent. I mean, the logic is just astounding. It's just amazing that could even come out of somebody's mouth. I mean, obviously they have a maturity standard, but it's for not having a child. And I'm not sure what exactly the metric that they're using to judge maturity. How do you judge somebody else's maturity? And you would think that the requirement would go the other way. You think we would be more concerned about wanting to have mature parents than mature people who are not parents. I read the actual court ruling. And so even in light of this, here's what they said. Based on the hearing transcript and her written order, the trial judge apparently sees this matter as a very close call. This is the ruling from the appellate court, not from the original trial, or right. What was it? It would be a trial or a ruling or a judgment. Apparently sees this matter as a very close call, finding that the minor was, quote, credible, open with the judge and non-evasive. Indeed, the minor showed at times that she is stable and mature enough to make this decision. The transcript demonstrates that the minor was knowledgeable about the relevant considerations in terminating her pregnancy, along with other statutory factors. She had done Google searches and reviewed a pamphlet that she and her family member got from a medical clinic to gain an understanding about her medical options and their consequences. What more are they expecting than that? She did research. She made made a case, was not trying to be subversive at all, was very straightforward. And plus she was there. I mean, she could have just run off and gotten an abortion, but she wanted to, step through the process. And I don't know. It's just, I don't get it. I don't get what how they're judging that kind of thing.
She sounds pretty damn mature to me. Kelly, what do you think? Are Scott and I wrong? Yeah.
I don't think I ever got this mad at a story that I've covered so far on nonprofits. I mean, I am really freaking mad. This is really messed up. And what really got me is she has a legal guardian. And her legal guardian has given permission for this abortion to happen. Legal guardians are appointed to make medical as well as other decisions for the minor in the absence of a parent. The legal guardian is legally her parent at this point and can make this decision for her. And the guardian has given this girl permission, and the courts are going against the law. This is freaking ridiculous. They're using this poor girl as a political pawn to make a statement, and I am really pissed off about it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one thing that's happening here is a delaying tactic simply for the optics of it, right? Because when she first had the initial court case, yeah, I think she was like 10 weeks pregnant, right? And that's well below that line of viability that was established in Roe. Whether or not it's been overturned, surprisingly, it still holds true in a lot of different senses, and there are a lot of states that are still the states that are allowing access to abortion are kind of falling in line with that ruling again that I think was very wrongly overturned by the Supreme Court. And so we all know that court cases take a long time, and it's a lot easier, I think, to make that ruling for the judges when she's only 10 weeks, 12 weeks along, right? Because, well, they just wait a little bit longer, and then, oh, she appeals again and she appeals again. Well, then next thing you know, she's almost at 40 weeks, right? And that's so upsetting. I mean, like you said, Kelly, she is a pawn in their political garbage and an attempt to further a Christian nationalist agenda. That's what all of these laws and rulings are, because there really just is. I think it was Sotomayor who even said when she was hearing this case for the Supreme Court, she said, "How is this argument anything but a religious argument?" And so, yeah, I agree. I am frustrated by this, and I don't know. Maybe we start giving judges maturity tests. What do you think? I mean, they didn't sound very mature to me. Scott, what else you got on this for us?
Well, as I was reading this, as infuriating as it was, I tried to step back and think, okay, well, maybe Florida is really just concerned about the children. Maybe they're concerned about minors. And so I decided to look into, well, what's Florida's take on trying minors as adults? So that'd be another case where we have somebody who is legally underage, and then should we treat them as an adult? And so here's what I found from Human Rights Watch. They said an average of 2,420 youth were prosecuted in the adult system per year in the 5 years between 2008 and 2013, while the overall number of transfers has decreased over this period as the juvenile violent crime rate has fallen. The percentage of juveniles arrested who are prosecuted in the adult system has remained steady. And so that basically implies that they haven't changed any of their policies regarding when to try children as adults. And it turns out that Florida has this law called direct file. And what that does is it allows prosecutors to make the decision on whether or not to try a minor as an adult without overseeing by a judge. And so it's the prosecutor's discretion. And like 98% of their cases where they're trying juveniles as adults is due to this direct file law. And it turns out Florida has one of the broadest direct file laws, and they transfer more children to adult court than any other state. And this quote, I think, is particularly on point here. It says, of the 13 U.S. states that report the rate at which they remove children from the juvenile system and prosecute them in the adult system, Florida charged children as adults at a rate of 164.7 per 100,000 juveniles from 2003 to 2008, almost twice the rate of Oregon. And so you might be thinking, well, why are they comparing to Oregon? Oregon was number 2. Okay, wow. Number 2. So they were twice as much as the second place team. Wow. So clearly they're erring on the side of adults when it comes to holding people responsible for their actions, but they're erring on the side of childhood when it comes to granting somebody the right to make decisions about their own body and about their own life. It seems very inconsistent, and I think that's sadly it's something that we see more and more often. It's not about being consistent, it's not about being fair, it's about pushing one's agenda at all costs and pushing the limit of the laws, the letter of the law, as far as possible. And it clearly they're undermining their own arguments, and they just don't care.
Right. And like you said right at the beginning, I mean, what the hell is even the criteria for this? What is the list of bullet points that says once these are checked, now you're mature enough for this decision? Kelly, what else you got for us? Any other thoughts?
I got a couple. One of the things I want to do is I want to reiterate that national Christians, and I've been calling them national Christians instead of Christian nationalists, because they do put country before God, and we can shorten it easily to NATCs. So these nationalist Christians who are responsible for pushing this agenda, I want to make everybody know they're not really Christians. They use Christian language, they use Christian symbolism to get Christians to vote for them, to pass a nationalist fascist agenda. Most of the things they're passing are very unchristian-like, and the vast majority of the people pushing this ideology don't even go to church, according to a study done by YouGov in February 2021. The more likely you were to support nationalist Christian ideas, the more likely you were to not go to church, which I found very interesting. So that's one of the things I want to reiterate, that these nationalist Christians are not Christians. They're nationalists. They're hiding behind Christianity. And I
just have one last thing I want to throw in there.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Kelly.
No, go ahead.
I was just
please.
Curious as to what would happen if she went ahead and got an abortion. Would they try her as an adult? Is she mature enough now all of a sudden? I'd be curious to see what happened with that.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. If I was her legal guardian, I'd be already talking to lawyers about ways to get legally back at the state for enforcing this. The way I feel about it, if they're going to force this girl to have the child, I would do everything in my power to make sure that child grew up a millionaire.
Yeah, I think that's always one thing that's particularly frustrating, but not super surprising, is how many people that are pro-birth out there in this country that are then anti the baby. Like it's so weird to me. It's like the moment the child is born, then it's like, oh, now we don't give a crap about it or the parents or anything else. Like I haven't heard Florida talk about, increasing their amount of child support in any way whatsoever. So what's going to happen if now all of a sudden we're going to have courts deciding, whether or not a 16-year-old can get this medical procedure, which let's just all take a fucking moment to realize how absurd that is. Imagine going to a doctor and them telling you you have a life-threatening tumor in your abdomen and then having to go plead your case to a judge and a lawyer and get basic human rights and medical services. It's just infuriating and absolutely asinine. And the only tiniest of slivers of silver linings I can possibly see out of this is the hope that this disgusting nonsense that we are seeing across the country, because in my state of Tennessee, we have no exceptions. There are no exemptions for the life of the pregnant person. There are no exemptions whatsoever. And I hope that people recognize that. And I hope that people remember who was responsible for the deaths that will occur. Not the deaths that might occur, but the deaths that will occur from this. I hope we remember who is responsible and the toxic ideology that is responsible for this. Scott or Kelly, any other thoughts, you guys, before we take a little break?
I just want to say, if we don't start cleaning up the sewage leaking into our society, we're going to wake up one day and find out we're living in a toilet, and we need to start doing that right now. Scott?
Totally agree.
I agree completely. It's we got to, something has to be done, and so I suppose we can start by making sure that we all vote, and keep that ball rolling.
Yeah, definitely, folks. And again, I think we all said it pretty well. We think this is disgusting and horrific, and I think I can see again, not to be a prophet here, but I think I can see the three of us at least. We're not done talking about this. We're gonna keep shouting this stuff from the rooftops until we see some change. So let's hope that we have that soon. But we all need just a little bit of a woo-saw after that, I think. So let's take a break in the conversation. And if you didn't check out some of the other ACA shows last week, here's what you missed.
Especially if we're white women, I think it's easy for us to continue perpetuating patriarchy because
we're number two.
Exactly. Now we're starting to realize, as we're losing rights that other women have never had, we're finally like, the patriarchy, when we should have been like that all along.
My brother had seen this ball of light fly over his head. And then a couple days later, I saw the same thing. Years later, after I left the faith, I Googled what that could have been. Carbon monoxide poisoning is the answer.
Carbon monoxide.
The longest running show and one of the biggest Broadway hits of all time. And the first thing that the Doors Church decided to do was say, let's take Hamilton, make it Jesus-y, and f*** it up.
Why didn't he say, hey, you shouldn't actually own another person?
He didn't have the right to say these things in that era, but he did.
He didn't have the right.
He didn't have the right?
He didn't have
he
the
was
right.
God in flesh.
Bro,
what are you talking about?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, Eve was made out of a rib in the Bible. That's what it says. Adam was made out of mud. If we're going to say one of them is clearly connected to reality and therefore it can't be a coincidence, why can't we say, yes, here's the mud people that came up out of mud, and that collects with the Bible too.
Whether you believe or not believe, if you are an essential worker, we of course want to thank you as well. And if you don't believe, this is your community. And if you do believe, we don't hate you.
We just think you're wrong.
And we are back, folks. And before we move on to the next segment, for everybody who isn't in the know, well, you're about to be, because the last Sunday of every month, the ACA will continue live shows from the Free Thought Library. That's right. Both Talk Heathen and the Atheist Experience will be broadcast at their normal times, 1 p.m. and 4:30 p.m. respectively. But now you can be a part of the studio audience. That's right. The next live show will be Sunday, September 25th. And we want you to come down to Austin, Texas, and meet and greet your fellow non-believers, show hosts, and of course, the people who make all this magic possible, the amazing, amazing crew. The doors to the library will open at 12 noon to the public, so we hope we can see you there. So go ahead and put it on your calendar and start planning to get your butts over to the Free Thought Library. Again, September 25th, folks. But if you can't make it in September, that's okay, because we will continue to broadcast from the library the last Sunday of each month. So make sure to keep watching this show and go check out the website, atheist-community.org, for all the news and information as we expand the in-studio offerings in the near future. So I know that is going to be super cool. And if anybody is able to get out there, definitely go hang out. It sounds like it's a fun time. So with that, Kelly, you're going to take us a step in the right direction, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was waiting for Cynthia to sing.
She's singing somewhere.
Yeah, she's singing for us somewhere. This is from NBC News. It was written by Joe Yerkaba. And Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf just signed an executive order on last week to ban conversion therapy. Yay! A discredited form of therapy that seeks to change someone's sexual orientation or gender identity. The executive order directs state agencies to discourage conversion therapy for people of all ages and to instead promote evidence-based practices for supporting the LGBTQ community. This is definitely a step in the right direction. I think we here on this panel, I think we're all familiar with gay conversion therapy, and it's not good. I'm fully on board with this. Honestly, it has nothing to do with me, just like last week's step in the right direction, but I think I'm completely on board with this, and I honestly can't believe that this is still a thing anywhere in this country, right? I've been talking too much. Go ahead, Secular Rarity. What do you take it away?
Well, the first thing that I wanted to point out on this, because as I was looking into this, this is one of those things that, I mean, like you said, it's not just discredited, right? But this is torture. This is just flat out torture that we're putting people through, all because of a disgusting ideology once again. And it was one of those things where it was like, oh, hey, yeah, heck yeah, Pennsylvania. And then I went, wait, why the fuck wasn't this already on the books? The thing is, though, 21 states in the country, 21 fucking states in the United States don't have anything. They don't have a law. They don't have a policy. There's no executive order. There's nothing. 21 of our states right now, again, including mine in Tennessee, they allow for you to torture people. That's the world that we're living in, folks. So yes, I understand it would be better if this was codified in law through the state Congress, right? Because then it's much harder to change. But even still, I will take this step in the right direction. I agree with you again, Kelly. I am on board with this 100%. And seriously, good on you, Governor Wolf, and shame on every other governor in those 21 states that hasn't done this. I mean, come fucking on already. Scott, what do you think?
I can't wait till next week when we see the governor of Pennsylvania signs an executive order forbidding the application of leeches in the treatment of the plague. This is settled science. This is not, this is not something that's questionable here. We know it's ineffective, and more than that, we know that it's harmful to the individuals that are involved. Why are we even having a discussion about this? And it's kind of similar to, I'm sure we've, at least many of us have had discussions with a theist or a religious person, or even somebody not religious, where they present an argument in favor of their conclusion, but it's like they haven't even thought about the argument. They were like, blah, 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 my conclusion. And so they're like, oh, yay, we like that one. That's a good one. That one supports my argument. It must be good, right? And so, here they're looking at this, they have a person here who is not like they think they're supposed to be. And they say, I want you to be this way. Here's something that we can do to fix that. It's not a matter of looking at whether or not it works, first of all, or whether or not there are harmful side effects. Just like, there's no consideration to whether or not an argument that supports their conclusion is a good argument. What the focus is on the conclusion, that it matches what I said. And so, we know that a good argument is not just a bunch of words followed by a conclusion. There's a system to it, I think a more cynical me would wonder if harm is the real objective. I mean, we got to consider that possibility that, a little taste of hell on earth for these abominations, kind of a thing. And I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I like to give them, to see them in the best light possible. But I can't help but think if the harm is the goal, and I don't want to believe that, but we got to be watch out for that.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I needed this article this week because it just really feels like there has been so much progress that has been taken away and has just brought us back so many damn years, and it is really nice to see some progress. It is really nice to see finally some news that is coming out that is a little bit better and a little bit more hopeful. And I do hope that what we see in the next coming legislative sessions around the country, I hope that we see more things like this. And I just want to say, I want to call out every single state out there that has not done even this, has not done this bare minimum. Let's get on it already. It's way past fucking time. So yeah, I needed this one. This made me feel great. I am just super thrilled about this. And again, I hope it comes to my state next. So, Kelly?
Yeah. I agree with you, Scott, about the harm thing. And I think there is some, at least a degree of intentional harm there, because if they can make these people feel bad about themselves or feel broken or not a full person, they can cause these people to come back to the church. And at the goal is going back to filling up the pews. And this is a good way to do it, is to make people feel inadequate. You are broken, you need help, and we, the church, can help you. So I think there is a degree of trying to cause somewhere to bring them back in. I was looking at some of the studies that have been done on gay conversion therapy. People who have gone through it have a higher percentage of depression, anxiety, drug use, alcoholism, homelessness, and suicide. And it's already illegal in half the United States. I don't understand. SCOTUS has ruled against it or refused to take up a case involving it 3 times, as well they should have. The science is out there. This is really a case of the religious community imposing its ideas on a vulnerable subset of people, and it needs to stop.
Yeah.
It just needs to stop.
We just saw Canada as a nation come out and say that they're against this, and that's awesome. I'm just, what is it? I mean, is it just the fact that we do have that many hardcore religious people still, or is it an oversight? I mean, again, I didn't even know that there were 21 states that had no policy whatsoever on this. What do you think, Scott? Is this just some old laws that we haven't looked at in a while, or is this the amount of hardcore toxic ideology that still exists in this country?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, there is that ray of hope. I mean, like we said, this is a step in the right direction. Should we applaud it when somebody rejects snake oil? Yeah, of course. The alternative is to not reject the snake oil, but and instead they embrace science and evidence. Yes, of course, that's a good thing that the governor was able to do this, but it's shameful that it had to come about this way. I mean, we're talking about one person in Pennsylvania. I mean, well, obviously there's going to be more people that support this, but it's the decision. Why is the legislature not behind this? I want to see more people stepping up, but I'm happy that somebody is.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point. We should absolutely try to roll this into some more legislative action too. I don't see why in the freaking world we wouldn't just codify this already in federal law. But then again, I'm not a Christian nationalist, so maybe that's what I'm missing. Kelly, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts were summed up by Jerry Brown, the ex-governor of California, and one of my favorite politicians of all time, even though he was a wackadoodle. When he was outlawing it in California, he was quoted as saying, These practices have no basis in science or medicine and will now be relegated to the dustbin of quackery. And I just love that quote. I just love that quote.
Yeah.
Because that's where it belongs, in the dustbin of quackery.
Yeah, I agree. That absolutely is a pretty good quote. 21 states. I'm sorry, y'all. I just can't get over that. How in the freaking... Oh, it's okay. It's a step in the right direction, folks, not a leap forward in the right direction. So at least we have something. That being said, let's move on to our final segment here. But before we do that, just a reminder, folks, you can become a member of the channel for as little as 99 cents a month. Just click the join button below the video, and this will give you access to special chat emojis. And then you can just blow up the chat with all those awesome, super cool nonprofits emojis. And also, we have a brand new store. That's right. Check it out at tiny.cc/merchaca. And you can get all your favorite items like t-shirts, hoodies, coffee mugs, beanies, phone cases, tote bags, all kinds of super duper cool stuff. And now all of the ACA shows feature a special limited edition item each month. So make sure you come back and check out the NP merch and all the merch from the other shows. So again, we make it easy for you, folks. It's a simple link. It's a click, nothing to it. Get there. And again, hey, that's a great way to start a conversation. You go up to some friends, you show them your new phone case or hoodie, and then you start talking about this awesome channel. So, just a thought. If you guys don't have anything you're doing next weekend, just try that. But Kelly, to close us out tonight, you have something that is strange but true.
Strange but true.
I sure do, and I'm a lover of the weird, so I just was all over this one. This is a really fun article. It's from MSN. It's not really a news article, but it's a little slideshow of some of the biggest Christian hoaxes that have happened throughout the centuries. And there's 16 of them, so there's plenty for everybody. You can share them with your friends. There's a lot of great stuff here, and they range from all the way back to hundreds of years ago to just recently with the ossuary of James. I don't know if anybody remembers that. About 20 years ago, they had found an ossuary, which is a box that holds bones, and it was supposedly of the brother of Jesus that had it. And it did turn out to actually be an ancient ossuary, but the inscription, James, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus, that ended up being a fake. So that was a fun thing. There's a lot of them here, though. I don't want to take any thunder away from anybody. Scott, you want to talk about one of the many fun hoaxes on this show?
Yeah, I mean, this was fun to look at. I mean, it's always, great to see a story like, oh, look at these people, look what they're falling for, all these hoaxes or whatever. But, it's at times like that I like to remind myself that, being gullible and irrational are human traits, and it's not just Christians that or theists that fall for these hoaxes. However, just because hoaxes can victimize anyone, that doesn't let religion off the hook. There's plenty of research that makes a strong connection between religious thinking and religious upbringing and belief in fantastical stories and conspiracy theories. For example, I'm sure many of us have probably remember this article. It's entitled Judgments About Fact and Fiction by Children from Religious and Non-Religious Backgrounds. And they found that exposure to religious ideas has a powerful impact on children's differentiation between reality and fiction, not just for religious stories, but also for fantastical stories. So there's plenty of meat there. There was also an article in the British Journal of Social Psychology that had similar results, but in relation to things like conspiracy stories. So at the very least, it doesn't show that that necessarily Christians or theists are wrong because they fall for these hoaxes, but it does definitely show that that there's some flawed thinking going on there, that there might not be as sure about things as they thought. Let's dig into some of these here. Do you want me to go first, or Secular? What do you think? What's your what was your favorite?
Yeah. And I think that was a really good point you just brought up, Scott. I'm glad you did that and mentioned that, because yeah, we can all, doesn't matter what group we belong to. It doesn't matter how much, we read or how intelligent we are. Like, we can all be prey to this stuff. But so one of the things I really liked, there were a couple of them that were mentioned here that I've heard people talk about, like in online discussions and stuff. And so the one that stood out to me was the Cardiff Giant. So basically, in a nutshell, long time ago, I want to say like late 1800s, this guy was out supposedly digging a well in his backyard and found like this 10-foot chunk of gypsum that seemed like it was a person, like it looked like a person. And they started going around and saying, hey, this is actually a giant. This is one of like the Nephilim that are talked about in the Bible and stuff. And it again is like this thing was like 10 feet tall and weighed like 3,000 pounds or something. But funny enough, and Kelly may be able to tell us a little bit on this, but like, not all like rocks and stuff like are everywhere in the world. Surprisingly, it has a lot to do with like soil composition and time and pressure, and it's this whole thing. And so, one of the things that was really weird was, there were a couple of people very early on when this was on display that were like, hey, this doesn't seem right. Like that, it probably wouldn't be this here in such a quantity. Funny enough, as a couple of the years went on, the fella himself, George Hull, who actually, kind of spearheaded this whole thing, just blew the lid off of it at one point and said, yeah, me and some buddies, we dug up a huge slab of gypsum over in Iowa. I sent it to this stone carver and he made this, thing. And even though it has been thoroughly debunked, again, I was just, my eyes just, practically popped out of my skull, because I was like, oh my gosh, I've heard people talk about this and say that it's real. So yeah, totally BS on this one, folks. But you actually can still see this statue on display, I think, somewhere in New York. There's a museum that still holds it. So very, very interesting, but very, very thoroughly debunked, like pretty early on. But Kelly, you had one that was really cool. What was your favorite?
I do. My favorite one was the Holy Fire, but I have to say something about the Cardiff Giant because you brought it up. Interestingly enough, P.T. Barnum tried to buy the Cardiff Giant, and he was turned down. So he had one made. He actually hoaxed the hoax. So, and I'm not sure if the one that's on display in New York is the real Cardiff Giant or the hoax Cardiff Giant.
Oh my gosh.
The real giant.
Yeah, one of them that I read about it, the real hoax. Yeah, the real fake, right? But one of these that really caught my eye was the Holy Fire, because it's a miracle that happens every year at Easter time in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in the Holy Land in Jerusalem. And yeah, right. That's what I thought too. I see your facial expression over there. Yeah. And I was like, wow, why did I never hear about this if this is a miracle that happens every year? And supposedly a light emanates off of a slab of granite that was supposedly where Jesus's body was laid after he was crucified on the cross. And this light spontaneously lights torches, candles, and lamps in the room. And then the high priest of the church will bring out the fire. So all the he'll bring it out on a torch. They're actually a torch bearer, and they light all the pilgrims' candles and torches and lamps with this holy light. right? And I was like, wow, this is really miraculous. Everybody should know about this. Well, it turns out that they've been faking it for hundreds of years, unfortunately, because it sounded so cool. What it probably is, and we don't know for sure, but phosphorus will spontaneously combust when it's in contact with air. And you can coat it with a solvent that will basically time the point where it bursts into flame. So you can actually have something magically burst into flame in front of somebody's eyes just by using this chemical. This was known in ancient times too, so it's a pretty good explanation. Now, Archbishop Gerasan Theophanes, and I'm hoping I didn't butcher that name, but probably did, he states that the holy fire does not light up in a miraculous way, but in a natural way, and that it is then blessed by the patriarch. And he added that we deceive the believers, letting them believe that it is a miracle. This is unacceptable and does not reflect well on us. According to Theophanes, the fraud of the miracle was invented by Catholic crusaders back in those days, and it was just continued on by the Greek Orthodox patriarchy. So, and apparently that's why I never heard of this great miracle. It happens every year because it's just a hoax. It's not a miracle at all. But what a fun one to me.
Yeah. And yeah, come on, God. Why not do a miracle every year just to like tell everybody and remind everybody and stuff? But no, that one was pretty fun. I enjoyed that one too. You also had a pretty good one, Scott. What stood out to you?
Yeah, well, the stories were all so fascinating. It's amazing. I mean, I love just watching people and how people think and how they react. This one, though, stood out to me, and I think you'll see why when I start telling you about it. It's called the Letter of Lentulus, and it's a letter supposedly written around the time of Jesus's life and purports to give a physical description of Jesus. And so I didn't want to just see the debunking. I wanted to see what other Christians had to say about this. So I looked it up in the Catholic Encyclopedia at newadvent.org. And here's what they had to say about the Letter of Lentulus. I'll skip to the good part here. It says, there has appeared in our times, and there still lives, a man of great power called Jesus Christ. His hair is the color of the ripe hazelnut, straight down to the ears, but below the ears, wavy and curled, with a bluish and bright reflection flowing over his shoulders. And so, looking at our panel here today, I can't imagine anybody would ever look like that. It's parted at the top of the head after the pattern of the Nazarenes. His beard is abundant, and the color of his hair, not long, but divided at the chin. His aspect is simple and mature. His eyes are changeable and bright. And so, clearly, this was written by somebody who must have seen the Lord, or the Son of Man on earth. And so, so I was curious as to how did they decide this was a hoax? And so this is what they had to say at the end here. The Letter of Lentulus is certainly apocryphal. There never was a governor of Jerusalem. No procurator of Judea is known to have been called Lentulus. A Roman governor would not have addressed the Senate. This was a letter to the Senate, but the emperor. A Roman writer would not have employed these expressions. The former two are Hebrew idioms. The third is taken from the New Testament. And so it's nice to see that there can be some critical thinking happening there when pressed. I'd be curious as to the motivation of the criticism, but it was interesting because there's a guy, it basically they were saying, if there's no pics, then it didn't happen. Basically, that's what they said. And so it was just interesting to me because you could tell this person just had a perfect vision, coincidentally very similar to the images that have been produced, the paintings and the so-called the images of Christ and that kind of thing. And so it reminded me of the how when Close Encounters of the Third Kind came out, and then all of a sudden all of the alien stories looked like the aliens in that movie. Yeah. Same thing here. We have this common vision of what Jesus looked like. And what do you know? We have a letter here written from that time to justify everything we've been saying. Go figure. But the Catholic Church has thoroughly denounced this, and it was interesting to see. It was interesting to see, I think.
Yeah, and like Kelly said right at the beginning, folks, there are a lot of these that this link, that's below in the show notes and then posted on the nonprofit's Facebook fan page. Go check these out. There are some really, really interesting ones. I mean, I really enjoyed the Priory of Sion one as well, because that's something that probably a lot of us are familiar with, this kind of like tracing Jesus's lineage to like some secret society and yada yada yada. I mean, the whole Da Vinci Code stuff
You'd
is
think they'd
all
make a movie about that or something.
it sound maybe two, yeah.
Yeah.
But what do you all think? I mean, what's the problem with these hoaxes? Is there a problem? I mean, is it good that we've debunked these? Kelly?
I think it is, and I think and as you said, this isn't just unique to Christianity. This can happen to anybody, something like this. So it goes to show you how important it is to keep a skeptical view of the world and really do some research and check things out before you just take them at face value. I did want to point out that a couple of these, several of them, were like additions to the Bible, and I'm making air quotes when I say additions. And it kind of reminded me of another famous addition to the Bible, the Book of Mormon. Just saying. So, but yeah,
think
there
that
was
would be on the
most
list.
of these were yeah, yeah, you'd think it would have been, right? But a lot of these were these lost writings that seemed to appear centuries after they were supposedly written. So most of them, like the story behind them, isn't even plausible or a really good story, and they're just waiting to be taken up by gullible people, and apparently they were. So you can always find people to believe bullshit, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. And strangely enough, in all of these hoaxes, when they were debunked, it was never using a holy book. It's weird how that happened. I don't know if there's something to that. It was something they used, some other thing, is Sima something. I don't know. But yeah, wasn't religion that debunked all this stuff. Scott, any other thoughts before we kind of head out?
Sure. I mean, like we've said a couple times that it's not just religious people that fall victim to hoaxes. It's something that happens to all of us at times. But I hope that there's a message here, and that it's humbling to a group of people that sometimes can overstate their case. And there was an interesting at the end. We go. There was like a several of these things, and you're going through them, and you're laughing at some of them. You're getting curious on some of them. But right at the end there, right at the very last one, they talked about Noah's Ark and how that, the Noah's Ark findings were a hoax. But the last sentence of the article was wait a minute, what did they just say? And here's the sentence. While Noah's Ark itself is yet to be found, science has confirmed that the Great Flood could have actually happened. I don't know. It kind of all of the good feelings that were being built up with the critical thinking and the thoughtfulness, and it was just like, oh, they throw it all away at the end there. It's just like, okay, all bets are off. Chaos reigns here.
We were this close, y'all. We were this close to getting all the way through.
Almost made it. Almost.
Yeah. Wow.
Missed it by that much.
Oh, yeah. I think it, you both have said it a couple of times, and I think it's always worth repeating that, anybody can be taken in by these hoaxes. When people are looking to try and trick people, it absolutely can happen, and you're not safe from it just because you've stepped away from a religious belief system, or you no longer think, a holy book is the direct word of God. Unfortunately, it's something that can hit every single one of us. Kelly, any final thoughts? And then we'll take us out.
Final thoughts. I guess, have fun. That's what we did today. We talked about some nasty stuff and looked ahead at some things that are getting better, and we ended up on a fun note, and I think that's a good way to live. Keep looking forward to the future, make changes happen, and try to have fun. So
I agree.
I like
And
that.
thanks for
I like
having me
that.
again. Like I said, I'm always happy and surprised to be here. So
We love it, man. I love hanging out with you and Scott, and some of the other awesome people that are here at the nonprofits. We do have a good bunch of people that come on, so it is always a fun time. And
not
with
a
that,
good bunch.
that's right.
We don't
that's
have a
right.
good. I was gonna say we don't have a good bunch. We have a great bunch.
Yeah, yeah, yes, definitely. And folks, if you're out there and you're watching on YouTube right now, or you're listening to the podcast, you know that you can hang out with some of these awesome hosts just by joining the fan social media outlets. You can find most of the nonprofits hosts, in fact, on the atheist community of Discord by just going to tiny.cc/ACD Discord, and on Facebook at tiny.cc/FBNP. And come hang out with us there. We're fun people, and we promise we'll cut our hair eventually at some point. We'll shape up at some point, y'all. Yeah, maybe not. But if you would like to support this wonderful show, you can do so by becoming a patron at tiny.cc/PatreonNP. And if you find yourself already shopping at Amazon, you can support the ACA by shopping at smile.amazon.com and selecting the Atheist Community of Austin as the beneficiary. So be sure to use that link to help out the ACA. We really appreciate it. And you don't have to do anything really for that. It's even easier than all of the other stuff that we make super easy. And finally, we really value your feedback, folks. We want to know what you like and what you don't. Did I get something wrong? Was Scott just spot on with something today? Both of those are probably true, but you can tell us all of that stuff either below this cool video, just comment below, or email us at nonprofits@atheist-community.org. And then finally, you can visit the Atheist Community of Austin's official website at atheist-community.org. And you can find out all the latest on what's been happening and what's coming up. And feel free to contact us at tv@atheist-community.org. So anytime you guys want to reach out and yell at us and tell us we're doing bad things, or praise us and tell us we're doing awesome, we accept it all. We like it. So, but before we wrap up, I'll send it over to both of you. I'll say, my kind of final thoughts are just that it definitely seems like there are some reasons to not be excited these days in the United States. Again, what's going on in Florida, a group of non-medically trained individuals pushing a hardcore religious agenda is not something that I am a fan of. And that's a real bummer. Just putting it as lightly as I possibly can so we can end on kind of a happy note. That is a real fucking bummer. And when we do see some of the good things that we got to talk about today, I am so happy, and I will shout it from the rooftops. I love the small steps that we are making to make sure that human rights are not stripped away from us in this country. So I was very, very happy about that. And just trying to leave it on a positive note. Kelly, what are your final thoughts for us about everything that we've talked about?
I am heartened by some of the things we did talk about today. I would like to see things happening faster in the Catholic Church. It is good to see that there is some kickback on what's happening down in Florida. I hope to see more of it. We do need to stand up to these Nazis and clean up our toilet before it gets too dirty. And again, have fun. Go out there and fight, but have fun while you're doing it. Don't be an angry person, because you're just going to turn into them.
Yeah. Scott, final thoughts?
I just, I'm grateful to have an opportunity to come and hang out with some great people. And, I think especially when things can be frustrating or things can be dragging you down, I think it's very important that we have a place where we can hang out with great people. We can vent a little bit. We can laugh a little bit. We can let our hair down, wink, wink, and just relax with like-minded people. And of course, it's great to talk to people that think differently, but it's also nice to have a safety net of friends around where you can kind of support each other and really bounce ideas off each other. So so thanks for having me on the show again. That's great.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it is always wonderful to hang out with you two gentlemen. And I know we will be seeing each other in the future again. I'm not a prophet here or anything. And thank you, everyone out there that's hanging out with us and watching and listening. Seriously, you're the reason that we all do this. We like to be here, and we like to have you hanging with us and learning about stuff and fighting the good fight, I guess, as they say. But thanks so much, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Watch Talk Heathen live Sundays at 1 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTH and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callth.